equals 4, and then parentheses x minus 3 in your parentheses plus 3 minus 3x. So this is a lot of continuation, just a little bit more with parentheses and stuff. You didn't have a whole lot of parentheses in the last section. So we're still just solving equations in this one, just like our last 46 through 48 objectives. Okay, so writing that one down. Okay, so first step, we need to distribute to get rid of this. We have it just so it's just adding and subtracting, that we're moving and shifting things around. So we need this to be gone, okay? So when it's right next to the parentheses, it means to distribute. So the 4 is still there. 4 times x is going to give me 4x. 4 times negative 3 is going to give me a negative 12. Okay, now I'm just writing the rest. Okay, so we're at our just addition, subtraction, so now we're just combining like terms. So I want to get all of my x's to one side. Well, they're already on the same, because you're going to have something that they're on both sides. They're already on the same side together. So I'm going to go ahead and combine my like terms that are on this side so I can start moving things. So my 4x and my negative 3x would give me 1x. Okay, and then these two are the same, and I don't do the opposite, because that's only when you're moving things to the other side. Okay, so I just keep the signs that they have. So a negative 12 and a positive 3 would be a negative 9. Is there? Okay, now I need to get the x by itself. This is just like we were doing on our last test. I need to do the opposite over to the other side. So this was a minus 9, so I'm going to add 9. And what I do to one side, I do to the other. Okay, and really this x is already by itself. I don't need to divide by 1 because it's going to be that same answer. So all I need to do is combine my 9 and 4, which would be 13. Okay, so that's our answer. Okay, next one. Number 63. Okay, so this one reads 0.04p. It's a variable p versus x. Plus 0.06, and then we've got parentheses again, and that's 1,600 minus p, and your parentheses equals 65.
What was the number?
61. Okay, so just like the last one, I've got to do what first? Right, times and distribute. Okay, so I'm distributing this to this first. So I'm not touching the 0.04, please, keeping that alone. Okay, so I'm going 0.06 times 1,600, and that winds up being 96. Okay, when I distribute 0.06 to negative p, it's just putting them together as times, because I can't multiply a number times a variable, okay? But just make sure you're putting the negative out front, because really this is a negative 1. That's right there. Okay, so it's a negative 1 times that, which is going to make it a negative. But we just put it outside, so negative 0.06p equals 60. Okay, and again, we're at the spot where we're at in the last one. If there's any like terms that are on the same side together, combine them, which we have the p's that are together. Okay, positive and a negative, so we're going to take the sign of the larger number. Which one is my larger number? Okay, so it's going to be a negative, right? Okay, it's going to be 0.02p plus 96 equals 65. What's our next step? Good. So minus the 96. Good, minus the 96. So I've got a negative 0.02p equals, and we're taking the sign of larger number, so it's going to be a negative, and it winds up being 31. Okay, what's my last step? Divide, and it's a negative divided by a negative, so it's going to change it to a positive. Okay, so when I'm going negative 31 divided by a negative 0.02, 02 to get the P by itself. Okay, so P is 1,500. Changes it after all those decimals, I wound up changing back to a whole number. We're good? Okay, next one, number 64. Now the fun begins. Bless you.
Yay. Wow.
Fraction. No, it is a continuum. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
If I do it without a calculator, it's bad.
Oh, me too. Okay, so this is, again, something that we've already had. We just now have that distribute thing that we had in the last two problems that we just did. We've got to do that first before we can get rid of our fractions. Okay, so it says 3/7 minus x over 14 equals, and then 3 parentheses x plus 9 over 42. Okay, we good? Okay, so just like the previous two, we've got to distribute first. Okay, so I'm going to distribute this, and this would become 3x plus 27, 42. Good to that point. Anybody want to guess what the common factor is, or the common denominator? Remember, all those denominators have to be able to go into it. 42. Because if I put 14 out here, 42 can't go into 14. Okay, so it's 42. Put 42 on the outside. We just did a test on this. Okay, practicing it just goes one step further in this section. 7 goes into 42. 6 times. So it's really 6 that I'm distributing to whatever was left at the numerator. So 6 times 3 would make this 18. Okay, 14 goes into 42 3 times. So it's really 3, that's a 3, sorry, that you're distributing to what is left of the numerator. So 3 times negative x is going to be a negative 3x. Okay, what's my last thing I'm writing down?
3x plus 27.
Why? You're right. Why?
Because 42 goes into 42 once.
Right. So 42 goes into 42 once, and 1 times anything's just going to be itself, right? So that numerator's not going to change. The 42 just cross cancel. Good to there? I'll be a little bit more confident with these, even though I know there's fractions and y'all like to shut down. Okay, so now, different from the last two. The other ones, we had the variables on the same side. This one, the variables are not at the same side. So we need to move them to get them to the same side. It doesn't matter if you choose to move them to the left or to the right. Okay, as long as they're isolated. Okay, I don't like working with negatives. Okay, so I don't want to move this over here because it's going to give me more negatives. So I'm going to move this one over to the right. Okay, so I'm going to add 3x, add 3x. Okay, so now my x is on the right side. So 3x plus 3x is going to give me 6x. Let's get that up.
It doesn't exactly matter which side.
No, that's what I just said. It doesn't matter. So if you moved it to the other side, you'd have a negative 6x. So that means you'll wind up dividing with a negative. But you should still get the same answer. Okay, so to get my x by itself, I got a what? Nope, that's always your last step. Subtract. So to get the x by itself. So now I have 6x equals a negative 9. Okay, now my last step is to divide by 6. Okay, so divide by 6, divide by 6. Okay, this can be simplified. Okay, you can leave it as an improper fraction, just make sure it's reduced, or change it into a mixed number. Okay, so I know that 9 divided by 6, 6 can go into 9 in one time, right? How many left over? 3. That's my numerator, and then I just bring over my denominator, but I can reduce that fraction to what? 1/2. So really it's negative 1 and 1/2.
Can we do decimals or?
Yes, yeah, you have a calculator and you have 1.5. As long as it's terminating. If it's not, if like 2/3 and 1/3 are not terminating, then no, you can't write. would have to be fractions. Because the idea is you have to be able to plug that number back into the equation and repeated decimals you can. Okay, last one. And you guys get a parentheses. No fractions in this one. Just a lot of parentheses and brackets. Okay, so 7 and then parentheses a plus 1 and your parentheses equals 5 bracket a minus parentheses 3 minus a parentheses in your bracket.
You just want to show us.
I'm good. I'm just watching people write because I know there's no copy. Okay. Order of operations. We've got to do the distributing. And there's distributing really on both sides. It doesn't matter which one you start with. I'm going to start on the right. And when you have distributing, normally it's outside of a parentheses, right? But here on the right-hand side, we have parentheses and a bracket. So when you have multiple things, you work on the innermost one first and then work your way out, okay? So that would mean that I'm working with this parentheses first, okay? Well, there's nothing inside that parentheses that I can combine. So I go directly out. If there's a negative or a number, that means I'm distributing it to that parentheses, okay? So when I distribute this negative, it's going to change that positive 3 to a negative 3. And that negative a to a positive a. And then now I can drop those parentheses, but I still have this bracket thing here. Okay, so remember what I said about parentheses and brackets. If you have parentheses, you look to see if there's anything you can do inside it first before you go outside, okay? So here, I still have a bracket, which is like parentheses. Do I have anything I can simplify to combine? The A's. The A's are in common, right? I have a positive 1 and a positive 1. So how many A's do I have? 2. Okay, so the bracket's still there. Okay, so I have 2A minus 3. And again, the bracket's just like parentheses. Okay, so I simplified my bracket parentheses. Now I go outside of it. What do I do with that 5? Times or distribute. Okay, so that would be 10A minus 15. Okay, what about the left side?
7A.
Good. Plus 7. Good. Okay, so now we're at where we were at in the last one. We need to get the A's all to one side. Again, does not matter. We move to the left, to the right. I don't like negatives, so I'm going to put 7 to the other side. So that's going to give me 3A minus 15 on that side. And my 7 is still on that side. I have to scoop that up. Okay, to get my A by itself, I would add 15 to the other side, add 15. So now I've got 3A equals 22. And divide by 3. Good. So 22 divided by 3. So it goes in there 7 times, which is 21, right? So how many is left over? 1. So that's your numerator, and then you just bring over your denominator. Just make sure the fraction, like the last one, could be reduced. This one can't. Okay. So this one on a calculator would not work. Right, Zombie?
Yeah.
Okay. Because you would get a repeating decimal. You can use your calculator, yes. But if that gives you a decimal where it's going off, you better write it like that. Okay. All right. So your notes, finishing your notes is on the calendar. You're just not doing the ones that I already did with you. Okay. So there's totally 16 of them. We will grade it before the class. Okay. And we have 16 to try.
sure it's open.